Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is.
Too bad you're not up north.
I know.
You believe they just called me, want to know if I want to bus up tomorrow?
I hope everybody's cool.
I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the planning, town council meeting. I got my glasses. It's a good thing. We almost canceled the meeting. You let in my glasses. But anyway, the town council meeting dated 2/19 or June 2/20 of 19. And so we all stand for pledge of allegiance. Bring that. Pledge of allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank everybody for being here today.
Sounds like exhausted.
So, a couple of things to take care of, some business stuff. We have, item number 1 on the agenda is Mayor's Town Update.
Okay.
I don't have much to update there. I can review a couple things. With everybody, things I've mentioned before that are probably important. One's Meals on Wheels. If you know of anybody in town, Meals on Wheels will deliver up here to Apple Valley. Keep that in mind. If you have some information on our website, you can just do a search in the search bar, Meals on Wheels. If you haven't been to our website yet, just know that when you go there, the bottom left navigation says agenda and minutes. It takes you right to a calendar of agenda minutes. You can do pretty much anything you want there. Print a packet, look at the agenda, listen to it, watch it, whatever you want to do. If you're looking to know what is going on with the packet, as soon as it's posted to that website as well. So the day before the meeting happens, you can click on the packet, you can see everything, all the documents of what's going on, and that way you can be, so you can get advice of what's going on in the meeting the next day, so you can get these packets ahead of time. As far as an update on the code for the municipal code, we had a meeting today, and I think Michelle's pretty giddy. I know I am as well about the organization of it. Is going to be pretty freaking cool, where you can go in there and find information, the way they're booking it. We anticipate, I didn't think they'd make the middle of February deadlines. I told all of you March 1st, and I think we'll end up at March 1st, but it's going to be pretty cool to be able to find information and the way they're cleaning it up. There's a lot of holes in the code. And so this process, what it's done for us is they've gone through the code. It'll say, you know, in the subdivision code, see section such and such, and in some cases the section number wasn't even there in the past code that tells you to refer to this, and it's not even there. The number's not even there, let alone the code that's behind that. That's the kind of stuff that we're catching and fixing a lot of it. That's why it's taking a little bit longer than we anticipated. That this gal we're talking to on the phone today with Unicode, talk about detail-oriented. She's got a spreadsheet full of those kind of problems that we're going to be curing on it. And then once we have that, we'll review it. We'll have everybody review it for accuracy based on what we've passed and based on what they've come up with. They're doing some renumbering on it to organize the renumbering of it. So hopefully the next couple of weeks we'll have that wrapped up, and at that point we'll have it at least provide a link to everybody that wants to review it for accuracy, and at some point then the town council will, if they've had some time to review it, feel like they're okay with it, then we'll vote on it. We're passing what's on the website as a whole. So yes.
Can those codes be dated when you know you get it all finished?
That's the whole point of this, because a lot of the code right now, I've had to do this research on some development issues and problems and go back, and there's no date on some of the code that we have, and so everything from now on is dated. And what's neat about it is if we go in there and let's say we want to make some changes to Title 11 or something, we open up Title 11 inside this framework that we have to work with now, And then we can redline it, basically what the changes are. And then everybody gets to look at the redline version of it. And then if we all agree on that redline version, or we can even edit that redline version to another redline version of it. Once we agree on it, once PC passes it, once the council okays it, then we click another button that says it's been passed and here's the vote. It records the vote, it records the, be a resolution, I guess, right? When it was passed, who voted on it, how they voted on it, and then it keeps a revision history at the bottom of that Title 11, and it'll say, here's, it was revised on this given date. Click on that and it'll give you the old version of the ordinance. So once we get this in place, you guys are gonna love the ability to find information from not, you know, as we move forward, this stuff gets in the history, and it's gonna be amazing to be able to, you know, look back a year ago and say, what was that code? For example, when we're working with someone, like on the calendar night as Jerry used Zion Tiny Getaway, he's responsible, he has vested rights based on the date that he put in his application to us. And so with that revision history, you can go back to that revised history of what was it on this given date a year ago, whenever it is that you're looking up. And to be able to have that's very valuable and save us tons of time on looking at. And currently in our current code, the way they've done it, it sketchy what was passed at that time or when it was passed because of the way it was done in the past. So anyway, we're cleaning that up. It's going to be awesome, and it's something that we really need to have for litigation purposes as well, and not just to make it easy for Sean to find stuff, but because now we have a history and know where what happened when. So anyway, that's happening pretty soon. So Meals on Wheels, the website, it's up and out. If you guys haven't taken a look at it yet, easiest place to start there is just a search bar. Just put in a single word, find kind of thing, and it'll help you find stuff. Let's go on to discussion action on item number 1. Is there any questions anybody has on anything I mentioned so far? All right, so discussion action, resolution R2019-04. This is appointing Debbie Cobb and as town treasurer. Now Debbie Cobb's always been our town treasurer, but we never had a resolution that officially did that. We're in a place right now where we have we actually need a piece of a document that says Debbie Cobb's our treasurer because we're trying to work with the PTIF account. And they says, well, send us the resolution once you use one. We don't have one. So we're doing that tonight. And so basically we're just making it official. So I just recommend that we, any discussion on it so far? Do you guys want to fire her or anything?
Cut my pay?
What is PTIF anyway?
It's our savings account basically.
Oh, Public Treasurer's Investment Fund.
Okay.
And so we keep money in there, but we haven't had access to it since for a few months. And so we're just jumping through this group so we get Ben basically the ability to go online and you know, make transfers and things like that. So anyway, so I just like to move that we approve resolution R-2019-04 appointing Debbie Cobb as treasurer.
I'll second that.
Vote. Aye.
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 Motion carries. And item number 2, resolution R-2019-05, adding Debbie Cobb as treasurer and Marty Lisenby, mayor, as authorized agents to add, delete, or make changes to bank accounts tied to the PTIF account, to open or close PTIF accounts, or to execute necessary reforms in connection with such changes on behalf of Town Apple Valley. What this is about is they want someone on there that's in charge, basically, that says, yeah, it's okay that Ben have access. So we're not assigning this to Ben, we're assigning it to the mayor, and the mayor's office then can say our accounting person, Ben, can have access to this information. And because Debbie is the town treasurer, we would always want to have 2 people on that account to, you know, for town security's sake. Is there any questions about that? There's something on that resolution, let me pull it out real quick. All right, so I want to change this a little bit.
Down at the bottom.
Yeah, so it's that now therefore is resolved.
Yeah, where it says Ben Billingsley. It's the part where it says is hereby authorized to execute. It needs to be your name. Because you're the name that is actually on the PTIF form.
One second. We just have a technical glitch on this form. We're just going to put the correction in our motion, so give me a second here.
So it should say Ben Billingsley is designated as an authorized user for online management, and Mayor Lisenby, or however you want to say it, is hereby authorized to execute the public entity resolution attached.
Oh, boy. Oh, so really that should be my name, not Ben's, is what you're saying?
No.
In that modifier?
Right here.
That's what I'm saying, it's
You
really.
just have to slip your name in.
Yeah, you just need to slip your name in there.
And
Oh,
say
okay,
it's on the next
alright,
one.
He's, because when Ben wrote it, he referenced himself as
Okay.
being the one authorized to execute, but it's actually you.
All right.
And Martin Lisby is here,
Alright,
what on it?
And so, let me try to make a stab at this resolution. I move that we adopt or we pass resolution number R-2019-05. I'd like to wait for it here real quick. Adding Debbie Cobb, treasurer, and Marty Lisenby, mayor, as authorized agents to add, delete, or make changes to bank accounts tied to the PTIF accounts, to open or close PTIF accounts, and to execute any necessary forms in connection with such changes on behalf of Town of Apple Valley, with the exception of the line that's on the last paragraph, adding to this line, it'll say Ben Billingsley is designated as an authorized user for online management, and Mayor Martin Lisenby is hereby authorized to execute the public entity resolution attached here too. And a second?
I'll second it.
And a vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Does that sound good enough for everybody? Item number 3, Hope LeBaron, are those people still alive? Hope LeBaron.
Get by without shoving.
The other thing that I want to point out on here that we've kind of adopted is you'll notice ordinance, this number on this agenda item has an O before it because it's an ordinance. The ones I just read off were resolutions, they have R before them, and we're just trying to do that to help find this out later on. When we archive this on a server or you want to look at that later, it's meant to make it easier to find information.
So they were here so often and so long that they were getting our parking spots.
I thought they were just here to get the mail. So, ordinance O-2019-04, zone changes for parcel AV-HWC-1 and AV-HWC-2 from OST to RE5, Holt LeBaron property. And this is a recommendation from the Planning Commission to, as an approval. Any discussion?
Second.
Another vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye. Yeah, I heard a second, but I didn't hear it first. So, yeah, so Paul and I looked at each other like, did we miss something? So,
I thought that's what I did.
but we're still celebrating, right?
I thought you were just reading
I thought you
the
did those,
I think you ought to do it one more time just to put them on edge.
Are you guys sure?
Let's take that
Yeah.
I thought of it, said I agree with that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think you said discussion.
Yes. That's true.
I move that we pass on 02019-02 zone change for parcel AB HWC-1 and AB HWC-2 from OST to residential for Holt Land.
I'll still second.
And vote?
Aye.
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 Right.
You pulled it out twice. Yeah.
Sorry it's taken almost a year to do that, but here we go.
We appreciate you doing this.
Yeah. And, item number 4, this is a Zion Tiny Getaway Agreement. So let's chat about this a little bit. We've had some, it's okay to talk about the pending litigation, or?
Well,
You have some limits you want me to say, or how you
no,
want to say it?
because we've just been meeting and discussing this, and
Okay.
I do want to state, Mayor, that I apologize. Ben Roosh, the attorney for Jerry Eves, did get this to me, I think, on Monday. I thought that he had carbon copied you, but he had not, so.
Okay.
So I just,
It's late getting into our
it's
packet.
late getting into your packet, yes, but it was not something that.
We had talked about it. Anyway, to back up, Jerry, let me just give you a little context and history. We haven't given them a permit on their project for Zion Tiny Homes out on the Cedar Point Mesa area, that project down there, because of some deficiencies, and I felt that we had in the plans. And those deficiencies are being corrected, and part of that agreement that we're looking at right now, we had a meeting on Saturday with his attorney, then Sean was there, I was there, and so was Jerry. We pretty much are on the same page on this, as far as Jerry's not fighting me on anything. We're in a cooperative loop right now. He's saying, yeah, okay, I've got to do a SWAT report. Okay, yeah, I've got to do, you know, these different items that were on this hit list that was sent out to him. He was basically sent out a 2-page letter from the town to him, red tagged him, until he had these items corrected. And those items are in the process of everything being corrected. But what we're doing today is we have an agreement with them that's in writing. I want something, if I just hand him a building permit based on a conversation or blueprints, we don't have anything that holds his feet to the fire when a fifth wheel shows up in there and he makes that an RV park. And I just told Jerry I've got to have something, you know, that's solid, that's recorded, that is becomes some type of you know, document that I can hold your feet to the fire on, that says that this is not an RV park. It will never be an RV park. It'll never have fifth wheels, travel trailers, or motorhomes in there. He was approved, as I went through the approval. You'll remember that some of this discussion, just if I go back a little bit, was that he has an approval for tiny cabins. And that's what the discussion was. And so in researching all of this, I finally found on the server, dated about that date when that meeting happened for the Planning Commission, that he presented these, you know, basically snapshot pictures of the Zion, what do we call them? What's the name of that?
Zion's Tiny.
Tiny Homes.
Right.
Is that particular brand. He had several pictures of those, and we had those on our servers. So I think it's reasonable to assume that what they meant by that, Zion, that we're going to do tiny cabins, is these particular homes, these tiny homes. And so we're going to allow them to move forward with the tiny homes. There was a conversation in there about skirting. That's why I'm coming up with this, is because when Janet Prentice in that meeting that they approved this, she talks about, or someone in that meeting talked about skirting around it. Why would they put skirts around a permanently built cabin? And then there was a conversation that she says these are a lot better than RVs. And anyway, that's what they presented in the meeting, and because we're not all there, it's a challenge to chase it all down.
I don't remember them talking about taking them off the wheels because they still were going to be on wheels.
No, they were just going to skirt them. So they looked aesthetically, they looked built in and permanent, supposed to be a little.
Right, and that's why the skirting came up about it, because they are on wheels.
Right.
So.
And so there's several things that they've got to jump through, but that's what this developer agreement's about. Is Sean and I went over all of my concerns, which is that how long can they rent these things for? They've got a 25-day limit. They can't have motorhomes, fifth wheels, or RVs in there at all. They can only have these on tiny homes. They can only be rented for 25 days at a time. They have to vacate. There's some, let me look over a couple things. I'll point out some highlights here.
And they will be permanent with discarding?
Well, you know, they're not on foundations or anything. They're not tied to the ground with cabling or anything. They're parked and then they're sturdy. So,
While you're looking at that, I just want to mention that this whole thing is a compromise because Jerry actually started on this whole thing before the beginning of last year. So he was already moving on this thing, and he was moving towards an RV park basically. So what this is a little compromise with that, so that we wouldn't have all the RV traffic going through the neighborhood. Just so you know.
at this point, we're just going to be renting out units that are stationary on a pad, and that way we're.
I don't see that call.
Siri's talking to me because someone must have said something. Hey Siri. Technology didn't get
I'm
you.
listening.
Here, Mayor.
That's the first.
I like how it says that tiny home cannot be rented to the same person sequentially, so people can't take up permanent residence.
Right. And they, you know, they had, one of the home sites was located where we know there's a drain pipe underneath, and we've got that in the agreement, they can't do that. They had to do a storm water protection plan, we've addressed that as well. They've got to have a cross-access agreement. What were the couple items you noticed that were missing from here?
Yeah, you had discussed with them the number of units, and I believe you said 40, he thought he had 44. So I think we ought to spell out the number of units so that's clear. Also, the skirting is, I don't see the skirting in there, so we'll want to put that in there if that's a requirement that you want to, that they've already agreed to. Going to 2E on the definitions, it refers to the plan as the plan that was prepared by Tuttle. But if you remember, we had two different plans that were prepared by Tuttle, and we want to make sure it's the right one. So I think that should be an exhibit, and we need to make sure that exhibit reflects what we ultimately approved. I think the accesses were different.
Okay, and so cross-access.
And then we also need the cross-access, that's not in there, so we'll need the cross-access agreement.
And will those things come back to the planning commission, being that it's like changed so much, and just to get everybody on the same page?
I would say that it does not need to go to planning commission because the things that we're doing here are not any additional requirements or changes from what was that I understand was presented to the planning commission. And of course, the town council approved it. The town council is able to modify a recommendation.
But just to take that a step further, is the town council approved this subject to the construction drawings. When they brought the construction drawings in, this is when all these problems kind of showed up, and so we're correcting these things. And then we're noticing, you know, I mean, we don't have to do this agreement. The agreement's to protect us and the community from him deciding that, you know, a year from now that it is an RV park now. And so this is what I was approached Sean about, is like, can't we come up with some type of agreement that holds his feet to the fire, that he can't go and make this an RV park a year from now, 5 years from now, that we have the ability as a community to do something about it. And it was decided that the developer agreement was the best way to be able to give us some teeth in this. See, if we just did if you just wrote up an agreement that says, here's how we're gonna run this place, and they recorded on there, it's up to the landowners, there's 4 separate landowners basically, or can be, on this particular business. And it's up to one of those landowners to sue the other landowner over a breach of contract, if we did it that way. By putting it in a developer agreement, we're bringing the town into the enforcement part of that, where we can decide whether or not we want to, we can, have some litigation teeth, I guess, to correct anything that's going on that wasn't agreed on. Because the main thing I didn't want to have was fifth wheels going through Cedar Point. And if there was someone that's going there that's in a car, that's a lot less intrusive than a motorhome that's 45 feet long. And so I was trying to put this stuff down on paper so that we can clean up his, or make it, give him an inability basically to cheat on this.
Well, on page 3, item K, tiny home shall mean a vehicular or stationary unit, blah, 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 that may be pulled by another vehicle less than 400 square feet. So are they gonna be permanent skirted, or is they gonna be pulling them in and out?
Well, I think the way this is worded is if someone had their own tiny home, that they could probably pull it in there and rent it. And I don't know if we want to clean that up.
So long as they're manufactured by that company.
Yeah.
And we haven't, you said there were some pictures given. We brought up perhaps it'd be good to have an attachment of what they're going to look like.
Oh, yeah, I want to see that.
That's something that we can.
And a layout on the
Have
property.
a
Because you can have a really nice one that they have there, it could be a nice one, and then, John Smith comes in and trails his in, and it looks like Granny needs a rocking chair up on the top, like the planters.
I was.
You're showing your age, Debbie.
I was just concerned about them having to come in with new drawings every time they change the model a little bit, or look at it a little bit.
That's one thing we do want to.
But that's, that's kind of a dull.
I want to see what it looks like on the property. When we looked at the RV station next to the Chevron, for example, the guy came in and showed us exactly, pretty much exactly what it would look like. So I'd like to see that to get a feel of the case for it. I don't think that's unreasonable.
I don't know that we're gonna get that kind of a rendition out of him for that. I'm not sure that's reasonable. I could show you
What they look like.
what they look like. I'm just
Right now, several of them are parked down in the gap where he's trying to rent them out in the county, so.
There's 6 of them down there right now.
Yeah, if you want to see what they look like, they're all sitting down there, the ones that he's got.
I don't think we ought to let them be able to rent out the spaces to other people, because there's a lot of companies making them. And renting out a space, that's just another RV park.
it is an RV park.
If it's gonna be a tiny home rental cabin, it's a tiny cabin rental, then they need to have skirting, they
Some
need
he
to
brings in.
There was
some
What's the name?
semi-permanent at least.
Yeah.
Not, during the night, 5 people moved in, and one of them's Granny Smith, like she said.
It was
Yeah.
permanent as approved. Permanent.
Well, yeah, but there's, that's, permanent as approved can mean, we put shirts around them and you can't move them because of the skirting. It doesn't say anywhere that they have to be attached to the ground, or that we don't have that kind of urgency. And even from the PC, of course, that's something we can all learn is, it's all in motion, and we can get better at the motion that helps create that, binding contract between us and them. And I've done the best I can, slow this thing down and try to make them conform to what I determine. This is why I've spent nonstop hours for weeks looking up this information, because Jerry went to his attorney and they put in a grammar request for all the information they had, every email I've ever sent, everything that we could find regarding their project. And so I had to pour over everything, copying information for this grammar request, and this is when I really started to discover some of this, who said what when, and I did find the photographs of these things, or basically if you've seen those over there in the gap or by Jerry's property, that's what they look like. They're, arguably they're cute, but I can see in the long run that someone could say that they look like hell, but that's what some people think is cute. And when you have a TV show that's about tiny homes, it becomes this fad right now that they want to capitalize on as far as not only making them, selling them, but also renting them out in a park like this.
Now, my idea would be that if they're gonna be permanent, that they would take them off their skids. If they're gonna build them like that, take them off the skids, put them on permanently rather than leave them on wheels and skirting. They're tall, they're taller than most RVs. So when you look at them as an RV, you look at an RV park, most RVs are fairly short.
I
You
think
look
they-
at these things and they're super tall.
I think
You've got people that are gonna pull into those things from the neighborhood.
I think I over 18 foot.
Well, the
Stories and agreements.
does the agreement say 18 feet?
It does,
Is it?
and 400 square feet.
We had talked about, he said 14 feet is the highest one they have.
But the agreement says
And,
18.
but the agreement, where does it say 18? They're not saying that.
On page 3, down below.
Okay. All right, we'll trust you.
I think the people that live in Cedar Point is gonna be nice to know.
The very last one, page 3.
So, the, where the 18 feet came in at and the 400 square feet was because of our ordinance for tiny homes. That's what our ordinance spells out. And so as a reference, when we were trying to put in a limit, in other words, I didn't want a 3-story condo, kind of a thing being able to build, you know, Sean was kidding them about a 3-bedroom. I thought, holy cow, we probably ought to put a limit on how big they can be. We refer to the ordinance that we can impose because that ordinance was also passed since their vesting. But we refer to that, they were okay with it, and that's what they've adopted in here. With the 18 feet tall and 400 square feet, that's what our ordinance calls for. And they're willing to do what our ordinance calls for today.
So where do you limit it as an RV? Because if they're gonna be hooking it up like an RV to power and having the hose coming out of the unit going to a dump like an RV, and the wheels are still underneath them, I mean, you can dress up an RV however you wanna dress up an RV, but to me, it's still an RV if they're not putting permanent plumbing underneath it and permanent power underneath it, and they're hooking it up like an RV,
Yeah.
whether you put skirting around it or not.
Right, I agree with you, but the problem still lies in the motion that says that, there, nowhere did we specify they absolutely have to be connected to the ground, that I could see anywhere. And, I would prefer it that way as well.
Marty,
Yes.
Forrest is looking at the one from 2017 right here, in the town council meeting. Says that
He said they were now proposing permanent skirted trailers on the development, nightly rental. You
That's my
can't
point.
put all of
Skirted.
this stuff in.
Skirted
but it says permanent.
Permanent skirted. That means that the skirting is gonna be permanent.
Permanent means they should take the tires off and hook
Well,
up
but-
permanent plumbing.
Mayor, I do think that they
Not
said
the
that they were
articles.
going to take the tires off when they put them down, did they not?
I didn't hear that.
Okay, so that's what I recall, but they may not.
Then why would they wanna be able to have the ability to let them pull in and out of the car?
Because I assume that
Well,
at
they
some
gotta pull
point.
them in to set them up.
Right.
We
Right.
want
Yeah,
that.
they gotta do that.
But if we don't want the ability for them to let someone with a tiny home come in there and rent for 2 or 3 nights, I think that we could spell that out, that they can only rent out their units.
I think
It makes
that,
it RVs more.
I think that, you know, all these other things we mentioned, we have to be, dealing with this, we have to be very specific as to what we'll allow and what we won't allow, so that there's no wiggle room. Because
Right.
some people can use that wiggle room pretty well.
Yeah.
And I don't know, quite frankly, what a permanent trailer with skirting means, you know,
Well,
because
it
a
says
trailer
permanent
is
skirting
movable.
though. It doesn't say-
Well, yeah.
It doesn't say
So-
permanent backs into the cement
Right.
pad, it says permanent skirting. Well, they can put some screws on that skirting and that's permanent. And that's, you know, I don't know that it's a problem or not, pulling wheels off, you remember that they said it, I don't remember that at all, but
But I don't know that it makes a difference.
I agree with that as well, and, but this meeting's about, you know, trying to decide if that's what we want them to have, we'll go back to them and say, here's what we're willing to sign off on, and then we can put that on our list of, you know, clarity.
A question on that is, was that part of the motion or was that part of the discussion?
You can't put everything in the motion.
But was it,
So,
that's a
no
good
way.
question. So it was part of the discussion.
Exactly.
Part of the discussion, but it-
On 2 different nights, I might point out. tonight,
Yeah.
if you want.
But
Well, no,
did-
I
Did
think-
you notice there, it says removing axles or tires or anything else though?
What else would you do if you're making a permit?
Put skirting on it.
Well, besides that, garden hose isn't permanent.
That's,
Mayor, I agree with you in that, with the situation that we're in, and we've looked at the minutes for the town council and the planning commission. I don't wanna go into too much detail, but, I think the mayor's done a very good job of sitting down with them and trying to make the best out of this project that was already approved, but not by anybody that's presently here tonight.
That's,
With some changes we can give it, so.
I don't personally like the project, I just am trying to keep us out of court, and, I feel like there is an approval, there's a motion for the approval. PC approved it, town council approved it. How can I best hold them to what they, you know, everything I can grasp onto that was approvable, and permanent skirting, the way it's worded right there in those minutes, doesn't say to
it's
me that.
permanent, comma,
I think if
skirted,
you,
permanent cabin skirted.
I thought it was permanent tiny cabins, I think that's what I remember on the,
Not
audio.
permanent skirted.
Permanent tiny cabins.
I think if we can put in there somehow that the utilities need to be permanent in there, not a garden hose going in for the water and a pull plug coming out to plug into an RV and the hose coming out to go into an RV dump and stuff. It needs to be tied in.
I don't know how much of an option that is, because they have to build those to, RV code. They have to have a holding tank, even though they'll be hooked up to a permanent dump. They have to, their construction is to the, same standards as a fifth wheel or anything else, and, so that means you have a power cord, and you're gonna have, you know, a pedestal there, and it's realistic that these things can change, not only ownerships. What I'm gathering from this, I'll go out on a limb, I think what they're intending to do here is night-night rentals at all. It's that they can find, someone out there that's willing to buy one, and, you know, they get the rent from it, kind of a thing, so it's a co-op between, who owns which number. So you're number 21, I put in my 50,000, I own it, and then I get the rent off of number 21 based on a cooperative. You have, you know, about, my understanding of about 3 owners right now on 4 lots.
Right.
That they're planning on putting these together on, but the way this is worded, it's, almost sounds like that, someone who owns a tiny home can park it there. They'll handle the rental for them and help them, rent the thing out, so, anyway, if we don't want that, I can see that this probably would leave the door open where we could. You know, we can close that door if that's, upsetting to anybody, but I don't think I don't see any tiny homes running down the highway that are gonna be poured into there, where this is gonna be a huge deal on, nightly rentals, yeah.
When you have multiple owners, you have multiple standards.
You have multiple problems.
Well, in this agreement, you guys don't have a copy in front of you, but it does say that, as built by Design Tiny Getaway.
No, I realize that, but it's the upkeep of the area, it's how they're, what the skirting looks like, it's, you
Yeah,
know,
I totally agree.
you're gonna have variation of
These are all
quality.
problems with the whole project, and we're trying to tighten it up with this, but we do have some limits on what we can.
So did Jerry invest in the tiny home business, and this is his showroom? He's just
No.
gonna sell these as he moves them on and off?
Don't know.
Right, that's not permanent.
I
Kinda
choose
sound
about
like
it,
that.
but,
Could be
I don't think
anything.
he really wants to even be in this business, to be honest with you. But, of course,
One of the conditions for that approval from a couple of years ago was paving. Where did we get to on paving?
one of the conditions is paving.
Yes, sir.
I didn't catch that one.
I remember.
What their drawing says is,
Site plan pending engineering approval on access, comma paving, comma 10% open space, and UDOT approval. So they don't have approval until they do all those things.
all right, well, the UDOT thing, you know, we're sunk on that one, so.
UDOT's not making them put another turn lane right there?
No,
No.
no, there's I don't know, you want me to go into that or not?
No, I think, we'll just say, we've discussed it with UDOT and this is where we are.
Yeah, we're just, let's say we're between a rock and a place on that, if we get don't mind, right? Yes.
Well, maybe if they take the, you know, the hitch thing off the front of them, what is it, the tongue? You know, where they pull them?
I'm not sure they're removable, I think it's part of the frame.
Yeah.
Well, here's
You
the
know,
deal.
so they would look more like a, you know, permanent thing versus, you know, that thing's on, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Would you put, you know, hitch on?
Sure.
These things started back east. Back in the south, back east, they're really big back there, and I've seen pictures of the parts. They do make them with removable tongues, just like you have on a big house trailer. That it's just 4 bolts on each side, tongue comes up, they slide underneath, they put it in, and you can also have them designated as park models, which is park money. So anyway, that's what they do, and they have them, and their places are really nice back there, those little.
Yeah, we just can't rewrite, the meetings have already happened, the approval's already happening. We have limits on how much we can say yes to. Forrest found that, the approval subject to that, is that in the PC meeting, the town council meeting, when they approved it?
Look at the
They
pictures.
submitted all
They're
the
at the
engineered
town.
construction drawings showing all of the
Look
connections,
at the pictures
utilities,
they
and everything
submitted.
else.
Yeah, we haven't signed off on those, is what I'm saying. It does say,
So if we approve those connections as they are those plans, then that's, we can't say permit or anything, that's just.
They couldn't live with it.
or I saw it when the engineer signed off on it.
Rich Cobb, 1193 East McMinion. If they are permanent tiny cabins, that's what was in the audio and that's what was in the minutes. I got them at the house. Why are they so worried about keeping the wheels on and having a tongue to begin with?
I'm not sure they are.
Why don't they just build some cabins?
They just-
Wouldn't that be simpler?
The only part of the conversation I remember is that we're gonna put permanent skirting on the bottom of it. As far as, that's part of our conversation at the meeting. And Sean remembers they're gonna pull the wheels and axles off.
Not the axles, but they said.
Not the axles, just the wheels, they don't even pull the axles off.
So,
Then they're permanent. Close the door. One coming in and out.
Well, I think they still want to be able to
Say
now.
changes when we want.
Well, then it's not permanent.
well, we can't enforce today's code on that.
Yeah.
We have, we're limited based on the discussion in the meetings. And so if Forrest has found the one meeting that, talked about, you know, pavement, then, you know, we can wait. for
That was in the final,
Right, that,
final.
Judith
Is this
Davis made that,
Is this the planning commission?
No, sir.
Town
That's the
council.
town council.
Yes.
Town council 10/5/2017, motion made by Judith Davis to
Yes.
issue conditional approval
Mhm.
on the site plan pending engineering approval on access, paving, 10% open space and UDOT approval. Passed 3-2, by the way. 3-2. So,
All right, well, let's, well, we've got some notes. I think we've got a,
Just one more question, did they at least get them off of the property lines? Because you have separate lots, so they are, you do have the,
that's in this agreement.
They have to
Right.
stay 10 feet off,
Exactly.
even though they're gonna keep their separate, that's why we need the
Just
cross
like we're building
access.
a house, you
Yes.
have a piece of property, you gotta stay, yeah, okay, so he had them over.
yeah.
Apparently, on this person.
And by the way, Mayor, they do have a definition here that we talked about for the pad, where they say and individually described, and they had agreed to take that out, so that it doesn't appear in this agreement that they can sell actual individual
Is that
lots.
still in here?
Yeah, it's on the definitions for pad on page, it's letter G, 2G, on page 2. On the next page, they do have a definition for a tiny home pad that works. And so I'm just gonna recommend that we just eliminate pad because it's not used in the agreement anyway. But we don't want anything to confuse that.
All right.
Have we
We've got.
covered our bases as far as this not turning into a tiny home trailer park?
Well, this is why we wanted to have this agreement, is the other alternative is they have this agreement, and between them as owners. We have no teeth in the enforcement of any of that because it becomes a property owner dispute in a civil matter, and we wanted to have this down here for to have some teeth in this. Now, what happens, 5 years from now, and these guys have done the road or something, what happens to that land? And that's why we want the developer agreement, because this means that anyone who buys this subsequently is still subject to this and can't do anything other than this as well without coming to the town for Forrest.
I'm sorry.
We're trying to have a conversation.
Yes, I'm sorry.
All right.
I was being real quiet,
So even someone that buys this, let's say it went into foreclosure, the bank sells it, someone else buys it, this still holds water to where they can't do anything other than what's here without coming to the planning commission and the town council and deciding to completely rezone it, tear out the paths, whatever it is that they have planned. They're gonna come to us and say, I wanna make this an RD park. And we say, oh no, not an RD park. There's something else you can make do with it, but not that. So-
Can they legally sell pads?
No,
No, that's
no, and that would be a subdivision, so that's why, and we just wanna make sure, that's why I wanna strike that definition of pad, so.
And this is why we're cleaning some of this agreement out, so.
Marty, we're just reading right here that in this town council meeting of 10/5/17, that they said that the applicant has decided to put permanent cabins on site due to the feedback received and get rid of all the RVs. Nothing about a movable structure or anything. It says right here, they decided to put permanent cabins.
Just like Aaron Steps, permanent cabins.
That's what it says right here.
Well,
So that they can use these cabins, they just need to make them permanent. They need to put permanent plumbing, permanent, so they can't be pulled in and out.
in their defense, they did say Zion's tiny getaway, and I think a lot of people understood that as being the tiny homes.
That's why I feel like
So-
he used that term, and I've heard the audio, I've got the same thing that Rich has heard out of that. That's what I've been holding this up for several months, since I was mayor. This is, first thing on my desk was this back in September. And, I was holding his feet to the fire that I need the drawings for those permanent cabins you're gonna build. And that's where the stalemate has been for all these months. And then when I got the grammar request, I'm digging through our files and I find these photographs of the Zion tiny homes. And I felt it's reasonable that that's what they meant by cabins, because the way these things look, that they meant these, and they call them cabins, but they were on wheels, and they were these basically cabins on wheels. What we refer to, what I refer to as a tiny home.
Mayor, could I just clarify something that you said too? That you weren't holding up this project because you were just requesting the drawings and everything that we needed. In fact, the final engineering too, so that we could get the approvals done, so.
Well, I appreciate the clarification.
Yeah.
It was me knowing that we had to let this thing go forward, but I knew that I had all this information I needed. One of them was even a storm water report, something they didn't submit with the drawings. They had the units placed on property lines, and that wasn't gonna work. And there was a lot of issues that were going on with it, and when you have, the verbiage that you guys are reading right there, that's how I read into it, is that, well, show me the construction drawings of those cabins. That's what I wanted as well, because, when I got digging for the ground request, that's when I discovered that we had in our possession these tiny cabins on wheels, tiny homes on wheels, photographs in a folder that I finally discovered. And I felt, because the dates on the photographs, it coincided with the dates of the meetings, that it was reasonable that that's what they were presenting at that meeting.
That's my question, what was the dates on the photographs?
Can I tell you that this is why this new website is gonna be frickin' amazing? You can go back 2 years and you can check on the agenda packet. And today, we go back to their meetings, you can't find a packet anywhere. And so unfortunately, we don't have every single thing that was submitted at that particular meeting, and it's like,
Well, I might point out, I did a grammar request on this probably a year ago, and I didn't get any of that. So.
Well, I'm not,
Yeah, well.
Well, your appeal period is run
Yeah.
on that, I just wanna let you know.
Yeah, I'm not complaining. I found stuff anyway, but.
How would you enforce a 25-day limit? You know, the town can't enforce that.
Well,
Somebody
the-
renting one of those things for more than 25 days?
At $200 a month, I don't think anybody's gonna rent them for more than 25 days.
Maybe our code
$200
enforcement
an hour.
periodically can check their records,
What-
see.
Yeah, we have, I think when someone's living there, it looks different from when they're visiting, based on the barbecue outside and, you know, the bicycles and the junk that starts collecting. That's what I was afraid
A
of.
little storage shed.
Exactly.
Yeah, little clothesline out
Sean, I
there.
have one question. Back to the tiny homes, that item K.
Yep.
I see where it says that, you know, they can pull them in and out if it's manufactured by Zion Tiny Homes. Okay, so if they started out, they put however many they have and they look great. Then as the time goes on, they don't maintain that standard and they start bringing in, you know, the stepchild ones and just, they start downgrading. How can we put in there that the standard has to be like what they originally?
Well, okay, first of all, I will point out that this could happen with a hotel, a permanent structure that you approve that looks great, and then they don't take care of it. I've got a number of those in St. George, and yes, when we go in, when we do the inspections of the hotels, we see family photos on the wall, and they tell us, well, they're just guests at the hotel that like to take their family photos with them. So we can't really, we still have that no matter what building is there, right? But in here, if we have the depiction of what they're gonna look like, there might be several models they wanna put in there, and we put they will be like these, or substantially similar to these, then that's something, that's about the best we could do, I think, in that. Because really, you can get a business owner that just doesn't take care of their business and it looks bad.
Because the inside of a hotel is not what everybody in Cedar Point's gonna be looking at. We're not seeing the inside of the place.
But these guys have a vested interest in trying to keep this place clean, weed-free, and, you know, they won't be able to show up at ramp, and it's not gonna happen if they let that happen. And all the, you know, it's hard for us to plan ahead for every scenario that these people are going on. It's really tough to plan ahead for every single scenario, and, you know, I wish they never did it myself, but it's, you know, it's here, and I'm just dealing with it the best I can based on, you know, this is, Rick Mosier's approval along with, I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah. Back there, Rick Mosier days, and you just made the motion on it, I think it was, and anyway, it's you know, there's a limit on what I can do.
Can we at least agree on the things that we've talked about, you know, as far as informing us,
Yes.
which tunnel plan, and if skirting isn't mentioned in here, I didn't see it, that you mentioned, and then also.
Yeah, that was talked about.
The number of units, 40 or 44. I mean,
40, yeah, was the approval number. Is that right, Forrest? 40?
40.
Yeah, that's what I remember being.
Does the plan show a rental office on site?
No.
It's gonna be like a camp host kind of thing, so one of them will be assigned just for.
So they have to have a guest registry that you go check and see how long the people's been there?
That's what I was trying to get out to, Sure.
Yeah, we have to be careful with that. There was a Supreme Court decision a couple of years ago on a case involving that in Los Angeles that said you need a warrant to go and look at the actual registry.
Really?
But yes, and so there are other things. We removed that from our ordinance that says that we can go in because we had them there. The police can go in anytime, ask to see their register.
But reasonable expectation of privacy.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
So it is a difficult thing, I understand that, every city deals with that in town.
Yeah.
But, like the mayor said, when you start seeing the evidence that someone's there longer than that amount of time, it's when you have your code enforcement
You're
officers.
saying was that car's there for 2 months in a row?
Yeah.
That type of thing.
Is that one?
Stands.
There's grass growing under the tire?
Yeah, it's all good points. All right, well, we've got to revisit this pavement issue that Forrest has found, and we've got some of the notes. Let's just recap them real quick. We want to have the number, we want to cross-access agreement, number of units, which is 40, skirting, which is permanent, and
you said the height was no higher than 14?
well,
In this plan,
18.
it says 18 here.
I know 18 is what our code is, and so they just adopted the code.
Okay.
He says they don't have any plans to go any higher than 14, just so you know, if they go higher than 14, they can't travel and bring them here without police escort.
Yeah, that's a special permit to anything over 14 feet.
So that's why their number is 14, but so I didn't anticipate they would do.
And,
one
you know,
paper.
this may have been an error on Ben's part, so we could talk to him about it.
Yeah, because they see 14 feet would be a maximum.
Well, our code does say 18 because our
It
code's
is.
designed for stick built, not travelable tiny
Right.
cabins.
Right. For a tiny home?
Huh?
Okay.
Yeah, we have code for tiny home, and it's designed for a permanent stick-built structure, not to exceed 18 feet, not something that's moving on wheels.
Okay.
That's why our.
Anyway, they said 14 in the meeting, I don't think that's gonna be a big deal, so I'll put down here the height. I don't think they'll have a problem with it. And
No.
the pavement that you were mentioning,
Question with the pavement, I know that in their approval it said pavement. Our new code says they only have to have road base, compacted road base and possible cinders, something like, that's what our code says in the tiny homes code. If we're holding them to heights and things like that, do we hold them to the pavement that was stated in here, or do we hold them to what our code says?
Mayor, I
Just
think
a
we look
question.
at the plans that they submitted to engineering and see what they submitted and what was approved.
it says road base on, on the last plan I saw, I haven't seen the revised plan yet.
And was that, have we given them approval on the final for the?
I haven't done anything, I told them that I haven't signed off on them, so they can't. Sorry, our engineering signed off on it, but that's not the same as the town,
Yeah, sure.
saying that, yeah, you have all our guidelines. Yeah,
Just one question, can you request, okay, where are your models? We wanna see the 40 set up in that, in the project right there. We wanna see what cabins you're going where, the 40 of them set in place, and that's the way it stays, they're permanent.
Well, that would be
style's gonna
the
be
site
here.
plan that would show the different locations.
well, I just think it's unreasonable to have them build 40 of them to set them there to see if we approve it, I mean, we gotta have approval.
Oh, no, I thought you were saying, can you see
They're
the
almost
layout of the
$35
property?
a piece.
Yeah, no,
Well, can they at least show the layout of who owns what property and what style are they gonna put in?
They're all gonna be the same company.
They're all the same owner.
They're all marketed by the same company that's organizing all this, Zion County.
Four owners, there's one LLC.
So they'll all look the same, but they'll be different configurations, so it looks like a neighborhood, because each one is different color and different kind.
So it's not gonna be like the Stout project where they're all there, you can see exactly what they look like, you know they're not moving, people come in, they rent, and then they leave.
Right.
So
It
it's
will
not
be
gonna be that
eventually.
bad.
Yeah, it is.
It will
But
be
you just said
eventually.
you're not gonna make them put all the 40 in
No,
the.
what I've said is to make them put all 40, so we can look at them, decide if
Yes.
we like it or not, so we give them a permit, it's not reasonable. That's all I'm saying, is that we have to go the next step, and let's give them a permit so they can build this, property out, so they can park these one by one as they build them. You're not gonna go over there one day and there's 40 of them there.
Then there may be 5 or 6, and a couple months later, 5 or 6 more.
Exactly, this is gonna be a phasing thing where they've got 10 of them, now they've got 12, and
So when they submitted, they had about 6 different styles and models of what they would look like.
Mhm.
And so you'll see over the course of 2 years, all of a sudden there's 40, but it's not gonna be all over.
But you're not gonna see them, the ones that are in place, moving out, and then other units coming in their place, because they're permanent, right?
That's the spirit of it, but, you know.
But how do you lock that in? That the spirit is fine, but, you know, you gotta hold his feet to the fire, like you said, and say, look, once they're down, you say they're permanent.
Well,
They're not moving.
Let me play devil's advocate on that one for a second. Let's say I go in there and I stay the night and I says, how much are these things? And the guy gives me a price, I say, I think I'd like to buy one just like this. He says, you can buy that one, I'll make another one. I mean, it could be that they could sell that used unit because they wanna rotate their inventory, and now one's leaving and another one's gonna be put right back in its place. This is their business, is renting them and building them. That's what Zion Tiny Homes does. Rents them and builds them.
Oh, I thought it was set up like a B&B.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying
That
that
was-
Zion Tiny Homes, this is what they do, is build tiny homes. Now they've got them out on the BLM land, they've got them down in the Gap. And they want this so they could put these in there. they could be using that as a model for all I know, on where they could go and sell one of them. Hey, spend the night and make a deal, and we'll sell you this one, and I'll just go make another one.
So then how is it
So they
permanent
can.
though? It's not
That's
permanent
not how
then.
it was presented.
I'm not saying they're doing that, I'm just saying if I was in the business,
But, well, even if they do that, what do we really care, as long as somebody didn't bring theirs in from South Dakota that's made by
That's
somebody
right.
else,
And
that
how
looks
often they
100%
get
different than
someone?
the 6 they gave us.
these are not going out, you know, a couple of a day.
If they do go out, it's
You'd be
gonna
lucky
be
to see one a
every
day,
5 or
one a
6
month,
months,
or one
one's
every other
switching to
6
something
months,
else.
so I get out there. I think it's pretty reasonable that, if these guys wanted to sell, I mean, I just don't wanna hamstring their business model completely to where, they can't, operate and be profitable. If they're profitable, it's gonna make the project a little better, because now they have the model that they're discontinuing, let's sell that and move it out, and we've got this new one we're gonna put in there. This is better than having fifth wheel RVs coming in.
No, there's no doubt about that, but I know what was agreed upon, and that, then they're not permanent in that case scenario.
Yes.
Here's the deal on permanent. If you look at trailer parks running around where you have permanent, you have 1953 trailers in a park that look like crap, and they can't get them out. But if this guy's willing to turn over his inventory every now and then and bring in brand new ones to look on there, it's always gonna look really nice. It's another way to look at it.
I agree.
But that's not permanent.
My house is permanent.
Rich Osowski.
Yeah, but you keep it out.
But that's permanent.
They're not built like your
As a
house.
business, I don't think it'd be profitable to sell the one that you stayed in, but I think that would be a good selling feature to have somebody stay in one and say, I'll build you one exactly like that, rather than pull it out and give it to them. They're in the business of building. That's a showroom for them. So the showroom stays there, and they build another one just like it.
Well, it's, I'm just saying.
that.
Yeah.
And they probably do that.
I don't know what they're doing on exactly
They
on
do.
that, but I just know they're in business to sell. And I think it's reasonable that if someone wanna buy one, they would sell it, and like you say, they've got a new model that is a new configuration with some new bells and whistles in it, and they want to replace one of the older units. I don't see the problem with rotating them out.
You lose revenue if you have though, if you're pulling them out all the time. You don't have them there to rent, what are you gonna do? So, that's fine what they'll do, that's fine.
Well, we're getting off on a tangent, let's, is there anything else you guys have, let's review, is there anything else you guys wanna make sure is in there?
Mayor, I think we ought to have the exhibit that shows the final site plan, because there's
Okay,
some
final site plan.
discussion on what.
Because
that
the
layout
approved
is.
site plan doesn't work.
Because the what?
The approved one doesn't work, because it's.
With the crossing the property lines, et
Right.
cetera. And in
Well-
this agreement, it says they have to have be 10 feet off, so we need to have one that shows that they are 10 feet off.
They were supposed to have that too, so we weren't gonna sign this agreement until we had that.
Question, with the approved site plan, or the one that was pending approval, it has 40 on there. If they're gonna squish those to get away from property lines, they're not gonna get 40, they're gonna get like, I don't know, 35, 34, I mean.
They're already squished.
That's what I'm saying, that's because they're squished right now, and there's only 40. So if they have to move away from 10 feet on each
Well,
property line.
yeah, they have, I don't know what to say about that, you want to tackle that one?
Well,
I just,
that's always, yes, there's always that would happen with the regular ordinance too, so that it limits what you can build on a property because of the setbacks, the parking, all of that. That's what they came in and they were approved for, was 40. They've agreed they have to be off the property lines, which is the ordinance anyway, so they'd still have to do that. So how that affects them doesn't really matter. They've looked at it.
It's their problem
To take care of, that's right.
and we're hashing out a problem that's not, existing yet, because we don't have the drawing. The original drawing, I said that doesn't work because it was on property lines, and
Over storm drains.
Why didn't
they were
just-
trying to get this, done before this meeting even, but, you know, engineering snafus, you know, it's hard to get everything you want when you want it. And,
Why didn't they just merge all those lots into one so they can move forward with what they've already drawn?
Let's not even go there.
Oh.
Are they still doing 4 septic tanks? Is that what I understand?
Four separate what?
Septic. Septic
Yes.
tanks.
Yes.
One for each lot?
Yeah, and that's totally up to Southwest Health, whatever they approve. So, they haven't got approved, I'll tell you that, right now, but I think they've got up to the size of the system, but that's, they've got to bring an approval on that.
This is the entrance, yeah, here.
All right, let's move on then. We'll table this for the next meeting and try to get some of these things happening out. And,
Step in the right direction.
recorded drainage easements are on our agenda for, Rubber, Tigerson, and Minor.
Mayor,
Yes.
I think you should take a motion to table it to the next meeting.
Let's do that.
For the storm drain?
I make a motion that we table the Zion Tiny Getaway Agreement to our next town council.
I second it.
And vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And, so recorded, number 5 on the agenda, recorded drainage easements for, River, Tigerson, and Minor.
Rubber?
Rubber.
Yeah, Tigerson.
Ferguson.
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 All right.
Looks like Tigerson.
Anyway.
But it is Ferguson.
It's a Dave Kraus person.
Let me get mine out. Basically, in a nutshell, here, you guys, we have, there it is. On the miners, Marcia Miner came in to me and, pretty upset over, the town's not living up to their, agreement. And, you know, I'm new, so I
Do we have a map right here to show anybody?
I said, what agreement? Well, basically, it's the house on the corner down here, that's, at the T intersection, left-hand side, that's the miner's house. Behind them, you'll notice there's that big ravine that's, you know, really got a lot of, a big wash behind it. That goes through 2 more property owners, as far as the wash goes, and,
Before it hits the wash.
they've reached a point where they can't, sell the house, they can't, refinance the house, they can't, market it, they can't do anything because of that, wash that's behind there. Anyway, she came in to, get on me about it and, said, we haven't lived up to our end of the bargain. And, I says, I didn't know we had an agreement. She says, oh yeah, it's in writing. And so, anyway, we chased it down, found the agreement, and we've got, just to miners, we have 222 feet of wash. They have an easement of about 14 feet, is that right, Michelle?
15.
I think it's 14 feet.
14.
That follows that, fence line. And, what the, Mayor Mosher did at the time was, you know where that nice little bump is in the road? You come up the intersection, they put a pipe in the ground right there, and it's a pipe on this side with no box, no erosion control, and it's getting larger by the minute. On the other side, same thing, nothing catching that water, and that's causing, massive erosion problems. There's another piece that's by their fence where, you know, there's not a drainage ditch along there at all, so what comes off the road hits in front of their property, erodes, it's broken through the bank, which is now eroding closer to their house, so we got all this water flowing through there. Let me know when you're done, Forrest. It's really hard to talk when I can hear you. And it's really hard for these people to, I feel for these people. We have basically a written agreement, I've got a copy of it in our folder that says that we're responsible to maintain that area. So right then when, they signed this agreement, they should have been doing it the right way. And I asked Marcia Miner what she wants. She wants, us to go down there and throw some fabric and some riprap, and, you know, I think she's being pretty reasonable with, us repairing this and making it so it's a maintained, drainage easement. In talking to a couple different contractors, they both said, no to riprap. It's not the way to go, because, we put in the riprap today and they'll fix it, and then it's full of weeds, and then we gotta go and, maintain it, and then, you know, it's full of mud now, and we gotta go maintain that. And, they said it'll be cheaper even to install if we just do a pipeline. So the pipeline that I was really desperately wanting to put in over there on Mount Zion Drive is probably gonna have to go right through these people's properties and bury it 3-4 feet deep. It's basically gonna connect to the existing pipe that's coming underneath that road that causes that divot. And then, from there, we go, pipe that underground, repair some of these, washouts that have happened on that part of the property in the process of it. And, but if we stop at 222 feet, there's horse corrals on, I don't know who's next.
Ferguson's.
Ferguson's was the next property, they have horse corrals right there, and if we stop the pipe there, it's gonna wash out where the horses are standing. So we gotta take the pipe through there, and then there comes the Revers property. So the Revers property is next on the hit list, and we have the easement through there as well. And the total fee comes up about 580 feet. So we're gonna have to put in 580 feet. I think the cost is gonna be in the $40,000 to $45,000 range. And it's something we'll have to put out for bid. And I think that that pretty much comes close to draining our stormwater money that we've been saving up for a rainy day. Well, Lorraine's here, but she's a very hired attorney, and I had no idea what was going on. I'm telling you, it upsets me to no end what they did. They had all that gateway money, they could have done that right. We might not have a mile or so of, chip seal down that's already breaking up, but they dropped the ball on that one, and they didn't do anybody a favor. They cut a corner there, and now we get to still do it. It just costs us more money to do it because of the way they did it. And, so if you want to be upset with Gateway, this is just one more of those reasons. They made a promise, and we got to fix it. So anyway, I move that we accept the responsibility of having to put this in. It's going to be about $45,000 in that neighborhood, and I'll put it out on a RFP, and we'll get a couple of bids, and then we'll take a look at them. Is that reasonable, everybody?
Yes.
So I move that we do that.
I'll second it.
All right, let's take a vote.
Aye.
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 Aye. Anyway, so that's on that one. Get my notes out. Lot split. We have a lot split in here, creation of new parcel on AB 1327-B from parcel AB 1327. This was a recommendation for approval from the Planning Commission.
What lot is that?
That's the cabin project of Travis's out on Main Street. And we're just making an illegal split into a legal split, but it's no big deal. He has access, and for some reason I'm missing most of that spot. Are there any questions on it? You guys have any questions on it?
I make a motion that we approve the lot split for creation of new parcel for AB 1327-B from AB 1327.
Second.
Vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Item number 7 is a lot split, parcel AB 1334-J, separating the Little Creek Station and the RV resort that's been approved. Not that's been approved, but it has zoning approved. And the reason they do this is to facilitate financing, and they want to separate off the station from that so they can borrow some money so they can go to RV park.
I make a motion that we approve the lot split for parcel AB 1334-J, separating the Little Creek Station and the RV resort.
Second.
Vote.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Item number 8, impact fee study. I was digging around in Robert Campbell's email and found a memo in there where back when he was first mayor, we discussed doing an impact fee study for the town. There's a couple reasons we want to do this. The impact fee study basically reviews what the town currently charges for, what's the fire impact, what's the park impact, what's the road impact, things like that. When we take in, for example, park money, we want to be able to take that money and sequester it into an account that's for parks. And at some point, go into the community and try to build a park. One of my list, I don't know if it'll happen, but I just want you guys to know I'm working on it, is right at Cedar Point, there's that road you guys take off a canyon that goes into where, I'm not sure what to call it, 2000, I think is the street name. It's the street you guys are gonna live on, basically. That piece of land in between there is BLM land. And I'm gonna push and shove on them a little bit, see if I can get about 4 or 5 acres from them. I'd like to see if we put a park there. And so this is money that we put into our kitty, and we save money. We gotta do some fundraisers. We try to decide where else can we, gather the money together, volunteers, whatever it is. We go out there and we build the park out there. And it's out there by Cedar Point and where you guys are at Baldwin Wells. We kind of touch both communities, so we'll see what happens on that. I've got the paperwork on that, and we're going to improve that road as well. And anyway, so that's kind of what an impact fee study does. And we haven't, so there's 2 reasons to do this. Number one, we want to know that we're charging the right amount for those impacts for the community, because it's been too long since we've really done an impact fee study. And the other reason is it's been too long since we've done an impact fee study. So we have to get legal on it by performing one. And so this agreement right here shows the breakdown of this. I'll have to change out Mayor Campbell's name on that, but basically this is a company, and this is what they specialize in. If you look on the website, look them up, you're gonna find out that they pretty much this is what they do. I think you guys use it too, don't you, St. George?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Just was visiting with Jason Birmingham today on some issues, so he's done a great job for us.
Reputable company. I mean, our other options, we go back to Inside Engineering, and I prefer to have a second opinion from someone else completely different, because I want to have that, absolute. I mean, if what they did before is valid and still true, then so be it. No big deal. We got a now second opinion that it's true. But I just need to find out if we're charging enough money. There's a downside to this. Go ahead. I was going to say the downside of this is the cost.
Yeah.
Be honest with you, I don't even know where we're going to get the money to pay for it right now. But I thought it's okay to at least approve that we want to do it, and let me go find the money for it.
And I think the reason why we were looking at that is because it was also the legality part of it came up to where
defensible.
They have less lawsuits against them with their impact study versus other organizations. And that was one of the reasons why we were looking at that before you came as mayor.
Yeah.
We were looking at theirs because it would give us a good, honest
so basically
compliance with what we needed to be doing as we felt as a
Okay.
council.
So basically, it's about $6,000, and I feel comfortable that we're going to be able to do that. I don't want to disclose why, but I think we're okay on dollars and cents. We've got anyway some development money coming in. I think that'll pay for this and then some. I think we need it. The downside to it is there is a big downside. It's a small one. And that we might do the study, spend $6,000 to find out that we don't get any more money. That's the downside, but we still have to have a defensible study done. That if someone decided to come back and sue us over, the amount of money they're charged for impact fees, we've got something we can, defend. So anyway, I move that we explore and execute this agreement as soon as the funds are available for an impact fee study for the town.
Second.
And a vote?
Aye.
Aye.
Danny?
Aye.
Okay.
Mayor, one thing, I think when they first approached Lewis Young about doing this, that it was going to include the water as well.
That's in our next meeting.
So, yeah, so I thought this cost included that, if they separate it out between the town and the district.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about 4, I think, for the water district, and, we, try and do those things separately, town staff and the water staff, so we'll be having a second meeting here in a few minutes, and then we'll discuss the impact fee on the water as well. So, anyway, let's see what else we have, Ensign invoices, because of the snow, I was afraid of Ben staying late tonight and, getting stuck on, icy roads, and I, sent him home, says, nice try, so what I'd like to do, yeah, I told Sean not to show up too.
He's
so
a lot,
so you know.
he's a lot younger, so it's important that he
He's
get
got
home.
more.
Yeah, that's right.
He has-
I got the life insurance.
He has less experience.
And life insurance, yes.
So, yeah, let's make a motion to table it.
I make a motion that we table Ensign billing to our next town council meeting.
Second?
Vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Kenny? Okay, motion carries. And, consent calendar, for January 1st and January 31st. Anybody have any changes they recommend or seen on that?
No changes, I reviewed all the checks on the register as opposed to what we signed, and everything matches up correctly.
Any other comments on it?
I make a motion, we approve the consent calendar for January 1 through January 31st, 2019.
Second.
Vote.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. And, that's the main, do you have anything? At all?
Just there's a CPR class on March 2nd, if anyone's interested. And the fire department is picking up the tab with the donations they got from the chili cook-off last year, so more people that are trained and certified, the better our community, so if you got some time on Saturday.
If you can, let Junior know ahead of time so he can get you registered, because you need to know the count of people, how many's gonna be there, so they have the right equipment in it.
On the new webpage, on the top, there's a red banner that the mayor put in there. You just click on that and you can register, and it goes right to June.
Send them an instant email. And, planning commission, I'll just say that the planning commission does not have a meeting this next week. Kids are getting out of school, on that day, and, so they're gonna skip, that particular planning commission meeting, so we'll have no planning commission next week.
No, next week we do. That's not March.
I think it's the 13th of March.
I stand corrected, I was, my head,
You almost had a day off.
oh, man, I was gonna go home.
I knew better, I didn't have my notes.
All right. I'm wrong, that's on the 13th, isn't it?
Yes.
13th of March, I was, all right, I'm wrong. Won't be the last time either. We don't have, Bill's here, don't have Harold Merritt here. Code enforcement, you got anything you want to share?
I'm just working on a few things, so kind of finishing up a few things also.
Right. The one thing I wanna, probably make everybody aware of is, we've been, asked to, instead of, walk on someone's property, knock on their door, and talk to them about a code violation as, can be considered trespassing, and so we're just moving towards, mailing out letters with a copy of the code and violation, and call us if you have any questions, kind of a thing, to respect people's privacy. So that's the policy at this point. Any comments on that? Questions on it?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So if you send a letter, just regular mail, those people can throw that letter away.
Right, well, it'd be, with a, confirmation receipt. We're not gonna just send just a letter, it'll be, where we get a confirmation that it was delivered.
Certified mail.
Not certified because they gotta sign for it. And then they won't sign for it because it's like, whoever has certified mail is good news, so. But Sean has advised us that way because of, that's how St. George does it, and so we're gonna try it for a while.
Even certified mail, the way I understand it, you can refuse it or not sign. You can go in the post office and look at it and see who it's from. If it's from an attorney, you can return it or not sign for it. but it's as if you do sign for it because it's registered that you have refused it and sent it back. And what do? Try 3 times?
Well, I would say this, that under the law and the way we do it, St. George, is to do it just by first class. That's good enough. But if we want to make sure that they're going, that we want some confirmation, it's better to do, in my opinion, the delivery receipt where the mail person just signs off that it was delivered. Because if you do it certified and someone knows, then that it's like you're saying, like the mayor said, then they're gonna avoid signing for it and picking it up.
But wouldn't that be the same as, it shows that you haven't accepted it?
Well, that hasn't been picked up, it's returned, but what good does that do? We'd rather them get it, and first class mail suffices.
Yeah.
And as long as we keep evidence in our file that we did mail it, a copy of the letter, and when it was sent, then we're good. But if we wanna make sure that they're gonna get it.
I just want to point out the other thing you mentioned to me is that you probably have 80–90% compliance just by the delivery letter anyway. So there's not that many times you're gonna have to, you know, take the next step.
That's St. George.
They got yes. Roads and storm drainage, you know, we're working on, I think, once we get this RFP, I still want to do Mount Zion Drive. It's gonna be about another $20,000 to do Mount Zion Drive. We've got some volunteers that said they would help us put that pipeline in. I wanna take it from the wash up to, Walter Josie's, the curve in the road there at Mount Zion Drive. If we can catch that water there, it's gonna help a lot of people, keep them from flooding. We need it really bad. And I wish we had taken over my property line, because that's where the low point is. And mostly just because we'd be able to actually get that ditch to run then. Because between my house and the Walter Josie's, there's an uphill. And it's a challenge to get that water to go uphill. I've got a few neighbors that want me to dig ditches that go uphill, but I'm slow to respond to that. But anyway, I feel like that we've got some problems over there. I did talk to Kevin Wednesday before that rain started, and we've been nothing but rain and snow ever since for like the last couple of weeks, hardly a day in between. And the Wednesday before all this started up, I says, Kevin, come on over here. And I showed him where we want to clean out that ditch along that Mount Zion Drive to make that flow better along there. And the next day it rains. Anyway, so we're gonna try to make everything better on that. Roads, we're still working on some cinders. We did get our permit from BLM. I like that we don't have to pay for those cinders. We just have to report to them what we took, and they don't charge us anything for them. So we're pouring cinders on some of these roads to help improve them. We've got Richard Fisher, by the way, thank you so much, because I know you donate a lot of time to the town on that project, trying to improve those roads and to make them passable. And same with Matt Jessup, is the other one's put a lot of time in. I also was talking to why do I Holt, I know your last name, I'm starting with your first name.
You're right, it's
Christian. Anyway, I was talking to him earlier today, and I think he has access to a dump truck.
We might, I haven't for sure confirmed that yet.
Well, he's gonna work on that.
I'm gonna throw that out
Somewhere in there, it's a family member, and
We've got actually dump trucks, we just need drivers that wanna volunteer their time.
Oh, okay, so you guys have enough company.
We've got 2 extra dump trucks, we don't wanna pay somebody to sit in there to help us, cause we're all volunteering our time for these roads.
Yeah, okay.
So if somebody wants to come and run a truck, we've got another truck, we can put them under it.
What kind of license you need for the truck? Regular license, or you need to?
We have one that's actually farm registered, you don't need a CDL, but.
Oh, I can give you some time. Let me know.
You drive a stick?
Yeah.
I can practice again.
I can.
well, I
Just wanna make sure.
No, I haven't in a long time.
We'll do what we can to help find another driver or something.
That's what we need right now is another driver, 'cause, I mean, we've got trucks and
How long you been needing a driver?
since we talked last about road grader,
No, you didn't say anything about a driver, you said you had trucks coming in dumping cinders, that's all you told me.
I know, but that's.
I'd come over and drove for you, I had like 7 days off, I didn't.
I don't think
wish I would've known.
he wanted you driving.
And now I got about 6 days I gotta work, so.
Right? Yeah, we're
Can you
definitely
take
using
off some more?
them all in one truck.
We just need to communicate.
I'd like to just take a second too and point out that Hillsdale City they have a loader over there,
That is used.
anyway, they're allowing us to use that loader to load these trucks as well, so we've got a lot of people trying to come together to help do some of this stuff, so I appreciate all the volunteers, and we're getting a lot done. I appreciate it a lot, though. It's making us a better place. We had a meeting last night. I should have brought in the mayor's town update and told you that I put out a questionnaire that none of you probably knew about for the Bowling Mills area with a link to the website where they can fill out a survey. It's not on the website because I only wanted them to fill it out. And I thought it was a pretty good meeting. In fact, everybody here was in attendance thinking about it. And I thought it went pretty smoothly. And these people, that's one thing they express is their gratitude for us spending some time to improve the roads because they never had that before, ever from any mayor. And so I'm proud to be the guy that said that we're going to help you guys fix this problem. Anyway, I don't think there's any mosquitoes. So
There's no meeting. Tomorrow's the meeting.
Tomorrow's meeting, all right.
Are you all excited?
I'm not gonna be there.
Anyway, any motion for adjournment?
No closed session, right?
No.
Marty?
Yes. I missed fire. Why don't we have it on there?
That's the, it wasn't there at the time.
Probably skipped.
Oh, there it goes, okay. Chief, you got anything you want to share?
The obvious, be careful on the roads. Ice is bad, everything's real bad right now. It's starting to stick real good right now. If you can get away from driving in the early morning and the late evening, that's when we've been getting everything, so. Try not to, if you can, because it's not, I'm not saying it's us that's driving bad, but most of the people we've been pulling out or helping have been, they aren't locals, so be careful on the roads. Chief meeting, I went to the chief meeting this week, and their big concern this year so far is just that our snowpack is really high, so expect a lot of water coming down into our rivers and valleys and stuff like that. So if we all know if we get some water right before, when we still have snow up in the hills, it's all gonna come down at once, so stay away from those areas if you can during those periods. We finished up air ops class for 3 people last weekend at Cedar City, and all 3 of those people passed their tests. We finished up our traffic incident management schooling out in Hilldale. 5 firefighters attended that, and everybody passed that also. Reminder, CPR March 2nd at 9 a.m. Anybody who wants to be involved, the more the better, so that we can get more of a community involved in case they have an emergency at home. 90-something% of people who actually go through this use it at home. So.
Is that Saturday?
Yeah, it's Saturday. So, also we got a decent amount of training coming up still with Hilldale, some more training in Cedar, and then some hazmat training. That's about it. And I don't know if anybody already brought it up, but Apple Valley Drive, there's still people moving those cones over there out of the way. So I've been seeing a little bit of traffic on that road, and I don't know if anybody's seen it, but
Oh, yeah.
got 2-foot hole in some spots over there with all of the, I think it's the erosion control, the old concrete in there that they dumped in there to keep it from washing out, but all that's exposed and there's rebar in there and stuff like that, so be aware of that. Don't drive down that road, because I see where people have already got stuck trying to get out there and stuff, and our road's getting tore up, so.
Isn't there one more item on your list? I think there is. Fire chief had a baby. Oh.
He had a baby.
See, looks like you're recovering pretty good.
I'm tired.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you, that's all I got.
All right. If we're ready to adjourn, and we get a water meeting after this.
I make a motion, we adjourn town council meeting of February 20, 2019.
Second.
Vote aye.
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 And, we'd like to, we got a couple things on the,
You didn't do public comments, so here it is. I don't know if anybody in this room did it, but I just want to go on the record that whoever shoveled the snow out from the mailboxes, thank you. It piled up on both sides, all nice and clean. I don't know who did it, but thank you, thank you, thank you.
someone did it. So, anyway, call the meeting to order for, the, Town Council Water District regular meeting, and, we've already done a, pledge of allegiance. Let's do a roll call.
Michael McLaughlin.
Debbie
Here.
Howe, here.
Marty Elizabeth here.
Paul Edwards in here.
Then Bassett.
And discussion action, Big Plains draft audit, we've got a copy of the audit from the Hinton verdict for the year, and we just wanted to give everybody a chance to look at that. And if you have any questions on it, it's, we could, have you guys had a chance to look at it? I don't know how much time we got on it. I think it went out last week though. But if you guys have any questions, I usually, Ben will be here and he can point out some highlights on it. Why don't we do this? This is critical today anyway. Let's,
Table it until
table it
Ben is available.
when Ben's available, and he might want to point out some highlights in there, so.
I make a motion that we table the Big Plains draft audit until Ben Billingsley is available to point out some items.
Second that.
Vote?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. And the second item on the agenda is the impact fee study. We talked about it with the town, but there's also an impact fee study for the water. This is, anyway, we need to find out where we're at. Harold's pretty confident that it's gonna be the same as what we got right now. And I'm okay with it because we need a defensible amount, and if it's the same, I'm all right with that. I just need to, we need to have it study done, and so, let me look at the amount, I think it's about $4 grand.
Won't the study be included in the original study we talked about?
There are two different studies.
Does it show the same figure?
Well, one's for the water and one is for the town itself. There's two different proposals.
Yes.
And
Sean, did you mention that they were talking about doing a water study together with?
Well, I asked the mayor if they had broken them,
Oh.
essentially broken them apart. One was 6,000, I think it was the town approximately, and this one's less.
And the other 3,400?
both of those in there, Michelle?
Yeah.
I just printed what you had given me, so I didn't actually go through.
Oh, yeah, they asked me around $3,400.
Yeah, okay.
Didn't the water district just do one in 2018?
Not a impact fee study, no. They did a some sewer study, the one for $30-some thousand, that was.
Yeah, I thought they did one.
Rob Mills did one, that's where we got such high fees from.
Right.
So hopefully that changes a little
You're
bit.
not alone in this.
Right now, when we do one like, we just did a house in Laverton on the water.
Rob Mills did a study?
No, well, that's what somebody said, but we just completed a house in Laverton and the water fees to the county water conservancy district were only $4,000, not 12. So our impact for our water seems a bit high.
All right, well, we're, I think as town council, I don't like the coziness myself. He's our town engineer and he's gonna do an impact fee study. Who's the oversight on this? And it's just, it's wrong on so many levels. Am I too far off on this?
No, who's authorizing it to start on?
Well, it's probably done last year.
Well, the last one, the old one?
Yeah, probably done.
High price.
Huh?
Cost us like $30-some.
You know, that was not even an impact fee study. I discovered when I called out Ensign on it, they said that, oh no, that wasn't that, it was had to do with sewer and, you know, septic systems and contaminating the water.
Sewer feasibility study. It was a
We
sewer
haven't-
feasibility study.
Sewer feasibility study, all right.
It's on the website.
Anyway, so that was a whole different animal. And, the impact fee study, as far as I'm concerned, is, if it was updated, are you guys saying that we actually did one?
I thought we did. Thought we did too.
We did too.
I know it was approved, and the towns was approved, and the water departments was approved, I'm pretty sure.
Well, a long time ago, we talked about this, I think, as Robert had intended on doing this. And, I called these guys up, I'll give you a little story. I called these guys up because this is what they do, like, Sean said, and Mike said, these are, they're good at what they do, and they stand up in court with what they do. And these guys, I called them up, and they're talking to me about the conversation they had with Robert and how Ensign was involved in doing the study and so forth. And I'm listening to them, and I finally stopped him for a minute. I says, "Explain something to me. Why is Ensign involved in this? Isn't that what you guys do?" And there was just silence on the other end of the phone, and they're like, "We were wondering the same thing." So, you know, I just think we need something that's not the same old thing that we've been getting. We need to know for sure, is this defensible, and are we charging the right fees? Good news, bad news, whatever it is, we gotta find out. And just to keep bear our head and stand up and say, you know, it was supposed to be 13,000, and we're only charging 12, and based on everything, because we are the highest in the state, without a doubt. When you add in the fees for
Connection fees.
connection.
Water share.
Well, I was thinking water share, at least you have the water sharing with the impact fee, we are the highest in the state.
We are.
And I just, it could be that based on our, you know, size of the payments that we have that we're making, it could be that that's what it's supposed to be based on our need as well to make those payments. It could be they come back and it's 15,000. But I'm okay with whatever comes back as long as we know that we have a defensible amount. And then we can negotiate. If it comes out 15 grand, you know, kudos to Harold and the group and for not charging as much as they could. But we need to find out. Because what if it's 7 or what if it's 8? We need to know. That's how I feel. And as a oversight on the water board, I move that we order this impact fee study. It's I'll let Harold know it's $3,400 thereabouts, but it's I don't think you'll like it, but we gotta do it.
I think it's good that it's another firm doing it, that way we know that person's getting paid for one job, not getting paid to do that job, but I'm here, I'm here.
Any other comments? Yes, wanna make a motion?
You
Well, I
just
guess I already
made-
did. I
you
made a
made
motion.
the motion.
Second that. Second it? Any other discussion? We're okay? Okay.
Aye.
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 Motion carries. And how about the adjournment, our favorite?
I make a motion that we adjourn the February 20th, 2019 meeting of the Town Council Board of District.
Any vote?
Aye.
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 And that motion carries. Thanks everybody for being here.
Be careful driving, everybody.
No, I think theirs was fine, the way they had it. It appeared to be fine. So I think,